What's next on the trade deal front? I want to welcome back onto Opening Bid longtime investor Wilbur Ross. Mr. Ross serves as the U.S. Commerce Secretary in President Trump's first term and has had a close relationship with the president for decades. Mr. Secretary, always nice to get some time with you. Appreciate you coming on here. Before we get into the topic of trade, I'm sure you've seen what's been going on with the president dismissing or firing the BLS commissioner. You know, you're a longtime investor. Do you still believe that the economic data coming out of the government?
Well, I think what is a little bit suspicious about the most recent BLS data is it came out shortly after the Fed FOMC meeting where Trump was hoping to get rates reduced. And clearly, if the two big revisions had come out before the meeting, it would have been more likely that the FOMC would cut rates. And that's the second time that that sort of suspicious behavior occurred. Remember, just before the presidential election, they also had 2 months of very good labor results. And then a day or two after the election, they made a massive correction in both months. Again, had that been out before the election, it would have been helpful to Trump. So I can understand why he would be suspicious, at least of the timing. As to whether the underlying data themselves are correct, I would really have no way to know. But it is a little spooky that there were two recent events, big numbers, big changes that could have helped Trump had they been more timely.
Do you believe, Mr. Secretary, before we get into the trade, like the president noted on Friday after the numbers were hit, that this data is rigged, not only the jobs data, but perhaps other data that the government provides?
Well, I think that's just speculation. He certainly never tried to influence the data that came out of the Bureau of Economic Analysis, which is part of Department of Commerce. We never had any problems like that during my term. But we also never had the kinds of events that I just described to you that naturally make one a little suspicious.
Mr. Secretary, on the trade front, since we last talked, tariffs have stayed in place for many countries. I mentioned Japan at 15%, Switzerland now at 39%. Are tariffs the new normal for the duration of the president's second term here, in your view? Or is there an opportunity to take these 15% tariff rates that Japan is now paying and negotiate them down further?
Well, I think the president has made clear that if there are further reductions by other countries, that he would take that into account. So his target is really improving our balance of trade. That's one of his major objectives. And that can either be done by holding back the trade of foreign countries through tariffs or by everybody cutting it together. So I think trade policy will continue to be a centerpiece of his administration, but that doesn't mean everything will be increasing.
What gets a deal with China over the finish line?
Well, China, as you know, is going to be having their big party Congress very, very shortly. And as you may know, I've felt for some time that it was unlikely that they would make a radical change in policy before the party Congress. They don't normally do that. And I think that Congress is either this week or next week, so we should know pretty soon if anything different will come out of that. But certainly the news that was out today about the critical materials being still restricted, that was not very encouraging.
Mr. Secretary, the fact that China has not solidified a deal with the U.S. on trade, is it likely then that its tariff rate will be higher than what we saw from the likes of Japan and, of course, the European Union?
Well, it's up pretty high right now, and I don't know whether he would make it even higher, but once you get to about 30 or so percent on the tariffs, it doesn't make too much difference if you go beyond, because 30 odd percent is very, very hard for a country to absorb. And as a result, 30 or so percent is the demarcation between, are you going to be doing trade with them or not?